How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy! Are you an alien?
To you I am, yes.
Hey, Dad.
Six Pairs of Pants was a sketch show. It wasn't even on national television in the UK, it was on local television. And it was a comedy sketch show, but it's where I met Jessica Hines.
Just doesn't feel right, okay?
Fine.
Born February 1970, Simon had always had an urge to act and perform. After studying English literature and theatre at Stratford-upon-Avon College, he continued his acting trajectory at Bristol University, studying film and television.
I was a stand-up, but I wanted to get back into acting because that was kind of my first love. I always wanted to be an actor from when I was a kid, and my mum was sort of into community theatre, and I used to go along to it with her, and I was in a load of shows when I was a kid, and when I was about 15 I realised that I could quite possibly do it as a career.
Growing up in the 70s, Simon had been influenced by the current cinema age. Big movies like Close Encounters, Star Wars and E.T. had all shaped an early childhood.
The people in this crowd will soon be among almost 40,000 who have seen a new science fiction movie at North Park Cinema 2. The movie is called Star Wars.
Well, I'm a real science fiction fan. I've got hundreds of science fiction books at home, and I think this is going to be a science fiction classic.
I remember watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind on Christmas Eve on TV. I'd seen it before. I think I was too young to see it at the cinema. It was a little too cerebral for me at the age of 8 or 6, whatever it was. But loving it so much. And E.T. was a massive film for me. E.T. took over from Star Wars for a while. It was my favorite ever film, you know, until Return of the Jedi came out.
How are you feeling? Are you a little bit nervous?
I am, yeah, but it's my first time on TV.
Right.
In 1996, Simon found work on Saturday Live, a British take on SNL. Later that year, he collaborated for the first time with Edgar Wright on a small sketch show, Asylum.
Well, the thing is, I think I am mad. Yeah, completely bonkers. You know, cuckoo.
A little bit about yourself. You're from England. What part of England?
I'm from Gloucester. Gloucester gets a bad rap, there's some bad things going on there, but please don't judge it by that. You know, there's more than enough to make up for all that business. I mean, for God's sake, you know, there's cheese.
First kind of lead role in a sitcom. Tim was a kind of extension of who I was at the time, a bit of a sort of sci-fi geek comic book fan. I wrote the series with Jessica Hines, who played Daisy, who is an incredibly gifted actress and writer.
You said, well, did you mean
It was because of Asylum that we ended up making Spaced.
There was absolutely no expectations on the show whatsoever. Like, nobody really knew who we were. Nobody knew what time it was going to go out.
Do you want Jeffrey King?
No.
The first time I played Tim Bisley, I was required to kill a whole bunch of zombies, and we shot the zombie sequence one morning.
You want a piece of me? Come get some.
It was after that morning of shooting that we decided we would quite like to make a zombie film, and that zombie film was Shaun of the Dead.
I'm taking a shortcut before.
He was an electrical store retail chap who was stuck in a sort of cycle of torpor and inactivity with his best friend Ed.
What more do you want?
That really at the time was fairly autobiographical.
You do know the front door was open again last night?
Got nothing from the shop. Cornetto.
Nick Frost and I, who played Ed, were ensconced in a pub in Highgate called The Shepherds, and my beautiful wife of 13 years, she also was trying to get us to leave, and we didn't want it, so we wrote a whole film about it and added zombies.
Hello?
Simon Pegg is such an immensely skilled comic actor that he can fake a slip on some blood which is not actually there.
Okay, everyone just stay where they are. I'm going to check if the coast is clear.
When we came up with the idea for Sean, we wanted him to stay in the same costume for the whole movie, apart from the sort of first scene and the last scene. So we came up with this very, very distinctive white shirt, red tie, which became his look.
Do you enjoy doing that?
Do you know what, Nick? Working with you is like sticking pins in eyes.
If we had had any wherewithal or sort of knowledge of how the industry works, we would have kind of been a bit mopey, like, what's the point of doing this?
And wait for all this to blow over.
Shaun of the Dead wasn't just a generational movie, it was a setup to what is now called the Cornetto trilogy.
In Hot Fuzz, I played the part of Nicholas Angel, who was a very dedicated police officer.
Now, I know what you're going to say, but the fact is, you've been making us all look bad. I'm sorry, sir?
Very by the book, not a maverick. He was the opposite of the classic action movie hero in that he did everything straight down the line.
Proper action and shit. Police work is not about proper action or shit.
And during the process of the film, he learns to essentially dumb down and become more like an action hero.
And watch him and call your dad. Tell him I was right.
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna bust this thing wide open.
But Nicholas Angel was very, very much not me. I had to go and do some research with the police and hang out with cops, you know, research procedure and all that kind of stuff.
However, it may harm your defense if you fail to mention when questioned something you later rely on in court. Anything you do say can be given in evidence.
The idea was, I think it was Edgar really who came up with the notion of doing like a police action film. And we were kind of humming and hawing about what to do after Shaun of the Dead, and I didn't have anything better to come up with, so I said, all right.
Let's do this!
Gary is a lost soul, a warrior in the name of something completely pointless. He was a complex character, and that Gary comes across as being very annoying at first and irritating and not someone you particularly like.
I haven't had a drink for 16 years, Gary. You must be thirsty then.
Seems selfish at the expense of his friends, but you learn as the film goes on that there's a lot more to him than that, and he's actually, you know, beset by complications.
Took us a ciggy.
Oh.
And I'll look after Stevie for you, eh? He's a good guy. He's better than me.
When the truth of him is revealed, you kind of slightly understand with more clarity why he behaves the way he does.
Never got better than that night. That was supposed to be the beginning of my life.
Whilst making Shaun of the Dead, a concept began to take shape. 7 years later, they had the chance to turn it into reality.
I drew a poster for Naira as a joke because we'd had this long day with a picture of Paul, not too dissimilar to how he looks now, finally 7 years later in the film, saying, "In America, everyone's an alien." That was the original tagline. And Naira said, "Why don't we do Paul?" You know, it had been around on her pinboard, that poster, for 6, 7 years. I play the character of Graham Willey, who is the friend and wingman of Clive Gollings, played by Nick Frost, my long-time friend and collaborator.
He wrote the Jupiter Praxis. What? Jenny Starpepper and the Huge White Gibbon? Huh?
Graham and Clive are two nerds in the real sense of the word, not in the new sense where everyone's a nerd just because they go and watch Iron Man. And Clive and Graham are both big sci-fi fans. Clive's an author, Graham's an illustrator.
Don't tell me you're a writer.
I am. Yeah.
They go to Comic-Con and then they take a little pilgrimage out to the black mailbox at Area 51 in Nevada.
Do I stand next to it? Smile.
When they get there, they happen to run into an alien on the run, and they help him get back to his ship.
Hey! Reese's Pieces! Yes!
Hello.
Simon Pegg's career has been shaped by far more than just the Cornetto trilogy or his role in aiding aliens. He's also starred in 3 blockbuster movie franchises. In 2006, Simon was cast as the tech-savvy Benji Dunn in Mission Impossible 3, a role he would return to several times over the years, becoming a fan favourite in the franchise. By 2009, Pegg expanded his influence in the world of blockbusters, lending his voice to Buck in Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs.
Now, we better get on the road because time till impact is roughly 2 days, 4 hours, 1 minute and 16 seconds. 15 seconds, 14 seconds.
That same year, he starred as Scotty in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek reboot. His involvement didn't end there. He's continued to contribute to the series in various ways, including writing for Star Trek Beyond.
I was very lucky enough to be offered the role of Scotty by the guy JJ again. I was able to take part in Star Trek and eventually got to co-write a Star Trek film with a guy called Doug Jung, he became my dear friend.
You may also recognise Simon's appearance as Hugh Campbell in the hit series The Boys. Interestingly, this casting wasn't as random as it might seem.
Wait, now, you're scaring me, Hugh.
When Derek Robinson, the artist and co-creator of The Boys, was developing Huey's look, he was inspired by Pegg's appearance and personality in the UK sitcom Spaced. In fact, elements of Pegg's portrayal in Spaced were subtly mirrored in the comic version of Huey.
Because the history of that comic book, I was obviously the inspiration for Huey, and in the comic books, when you see Huey, he's me. By the time they came to make the show, obviously I'd aged out of being able to play Huey, and thank goodness, because Jack Quaid is so great. I love him as Huey, and it's really nice to be a part of that show, even though it's a little kind of guest role that they gave me as a tribute to the comic book.
Looking ahead, the future of Simon Pegg's career remains intriguing. He's already confirmed his involvement in the new Ice Age film, but more exciting projects may be on the horizon. During a recent Q&A at Glastonbury with frequent collaborator Edgar Wright, the two hinted at upcoming projects.
Edgar and I are friends, we're not just colleagues, and we're always talking about, we got to do this, we got to come up with this, I'll come round, and the thing that we need to do now is carve out some time, which we will do, and we will do something else, with Nick.
Pegg's influence, particularly in the UK, is undeniable. His films, many of which have become cultural classics, have shaped the entertainment landscape, much in the same way his own childhood experiences shaped his comedic voice.